Perfect.
Hello, this is Connor Turnbull. I'm with The Highway, and we are interviewing my buddy Trent here. Trent, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Trent Hunley. I was a teammate of Connor's for 2 years. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, a little bit east of it. And then, yeah, I'm a senior here at the university. Been here for 2 years, and I'm a business management major. Yep.
Yeah, so we obviously cover the topic of transportation around just the city of Evansville. And I chose you to interview because I know you don't have a car and you use a bike to get around. So, like, how long have you primarily been using the bike to get around campus, and just how long has that been?
Mainly the whole year, honestly. Not only do I like biking, but, it's pretty easy to get around our campus with a bike. So, yeah.
Yeah. What was kind of like went into your decision making process of not getting a car? Like, what was kind of some of your biggest reasons?
Cars are freaking expensive.
Yes.
And, I'd like to save as much money as possible. So, biking around has been the most useful form of that, especially when, gas prices go up and down all the time. And, you only get so much money. So, try to save as much of it as possible.
Yeah, of course. What does like a typical day look like when you're going around on your bike, when you're making your way to classes? Are you using it to every class, or what just is like your typical average day?
So most classes I actually do get to walk to. Since I am in the townhouses, it's not that, far of a walk to SOBA. But if I want to go, say, Subway or the Dollar General, unfortunately, it's the Dollar Tree now. The Dollar Tree's closed, so I haven't been able to go to that for a while. But, I'll go bike there, or I'll go just, down the highway a little bit. But It's not that bad of a bike, so that's most of my days.
Yeah, when you're going some of those farther places, because obviously you walk to class, how long does it take some of those longer rides to get to? Maybe if you're even biking all the way to where Evansville plays their basketball games at Ford Center, or like what's kind of some of the farther rides and how long do they take?
I've only done the Ford Center a couple times. That's usually like a 20-30 minute bike ride. I don't try to go all out, especially when I go to the Ford Center. But it's not too bad of a ride. It's pretty straight. If I ever have to go on the roads are pretty bad. They all have freaking potholes everywhere. So
yeah,
that's unfortunate. But no, some of those farther rides are, pretty peaceful as well. So
yeah,
not too much going on.
I guess I'll go pretty general, but like, what are some of just your favorite parts and least favorite parts about biking what first comes to mind?
Just being physically active, especially, now that I'm retired from basketball and, I have to figure out some way to get some exercise. So I'll just get out, go on a bike ride, which I really enjoy again. But, those are some very good parts about it. And then some bad parts is, you have to go somewhere and it just starts raining out of nowhere. That sucks. Or it's either way too hot or way too cold, honestly. But, still not too bad.
Yeah, that leads perfectly into my next question. I was going to ask, how do, like, bad weather days affect you? And has that ever, do you have any terrible stories with that?
Biking in the winter is just always rough. I like to drift sometimes or drift a bike or whatever. But, dude, I bust my butt half the time I do that. So I've, tried not to do that as much. Just going anytime in the winter, especially when we had our big winter storm, like that wasn't fun. And, half the time I just decided to walk instead of ride a bike. But, there's that, and then there's times where it's like uncomfortably hot. So like I'll have a backpack on when I ride,
Yeah,
and just having like extra weight or like a lot more heat on me is just not fun in those like very hot days.
Absolutely. I guess when you're riding around campus, would you say you feel like generally safe, or is there ways that Evansville could go about making you feel more safe when you're riding your bike around, whether it's late at night, early in the morning, or just whether or not they have like good traffic routes for you, or like things easily accessible bike lanes and stuff of that?
I would say for the campus, yes. Usually midday is, it's perfect out today, so I'm sure I'll go out and get a bike ride in. But yeah, I think around campus it's pretty good, especially since we have a lot of locks. 4 bikes are like the little racks for our bikes. So that's always, a nice, function for Evansville, but around campus, like that Dollar Tree, I have to go and hide my bike a little bit better, just so I feel safe. Going down that main strip as well. There's sometimes like midday where I feel safe, and then if I'm ever going at night, which I tend to not do as much, just because I feel like it's a lot less safe. I think I'll rather just go midday, but I would say for the whole city of Evansville, we actually do integrate like a lot of bike lanes pretty well. Of course, like there's going to be parts that aren't like nice areas, but I mean, that's every single city that has a lot of bike as their main source of transportation. Like,
yeah. No, absolutely. That my next question was about bike locks. Do you utilize a bike lock, and like how do you use it, or do you tend to not use it?
every single time. I mean, if I'm going somewhere where I'm going to be there for more than 10 minutes, then I'm going to use a bike lock. I mean, I've had bikes stolen before back home, so that's not a very fun situation. But yeah, everywhere I go, I usually use a bike lock. Of course, I have my backpack, so I always keep it in my backpack. But if I'm going, again, to a class, I'll put a bike lock on. But, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I was going to, backpacking off our last question, like, are there any specific areas that come to mind when you think of Evansville or the campus that you think could be easily accessible by bike, or just in general things that they could clean up?
The easily accessible like buildings would be, I think SOBA. Of course, I'm going to SOBA all the time, so I'm, more in tune with everything around SOBA. I would say maybe our athletic facilities, that whole section. I know there's some spots for bike racks and all of that, but being able to take a bike in is pretty not as good. So I think maybe a couple more spots where you can put your bike would be pretty nice.
Yeah.
But I mean, still, I don't mind walking around and doing all that. So.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Is I know there's probably the lane and the traffic of the bikes is probably upkept pretty well, but I know there's a lack of places to park your bike, and like just places outside of. I mean, obviously, there's just like you want places that are convenient, so you can go park it anywhere, so a biker doesn't have to bike across campus just to park their bike. So that's obviously extremely important. My next question was, do you have any specific experiences or like memorable moments where it was like close calls, maybe with a car where people aren't paying attention to traffic, maybe you weren't, or just what was do you have any experiences like that?
Again, it's late night, but being a bike rider at night, you have to have some type of, lights so that other people can see you, because it's dark outside, and I have a darker bike, and I like to wear darker clothes. So making sure that I'm I have some type of light. Of course, this instance I didn't have one, so I've had a couple close calls with some cars. There's some lighting stuff, so I'll hit a bump, and I've had moments where I've fallen off a bike, hitting like a crack in a not a crack. It's more like a pothole in the road or anything like that. So, those would be nice to have like a light pole around.
Yeah.
But no, I've had a couple instances with some cars late at night where I almost get smoked. I've had friends that have gotten smoked by cars when they're riding their bike. So,
no, obviously it can be super dangerous riding bikes at night. So that's why I always try to ask for bikers' experiences when they tell me they've been driving it around. Would you consider Evansville a friendly bike campus? I know you've been around other campuses. What would you compare Evansville across just a college standpoint?
So for my last college, I went to the University of Rio Grande, and we did not have anything like this. So I was walking everywhere. I mean, there wasn't a lot around campus, but like the closest Walmart was like a 20-minute drive. So I'd always have to hitch off of somebody else. Like, I'm not making that bike ride. But for here, it's actually been really nice. There's a lot of open areas around here. And I mean, there's sometimes where you have to go on a sidewalk and then go out onto like grass or whatever to avoid other people. But I mean, for Evansville, the university, it has just been, a very nice switch up from my last college. Obviously, I've seen other colleges, Division I colleges through basketball. So I've seen a lot of like nice campuses. Nashville with Belmont, they have a pretty nice campus, and they have a bunch of bike lanes and all that from what I've seen from their campus. So out of everything that I've seen, I'd say Evansville has one of the higher, I guess, uses of bikes and equipment for all the bikes.
Sweet. Yeah. If you were to give any advice to someone that was maybe, say, ditching their car or considering the biking option rather than spending a bunch of money on a car, what advice would you give them, or what's something that you would share with them?
Definitely look out for a lot of drivers. Drivers aren't looking for people on, bike lanes or the side of the road. So be very observant of other cars, other people as well. It's hard to do this on hot days, but wearing, thicker clothes just in case you have an accident. Always wear a helmet. I don't like to half the time, but, if I'm going out for a 30-minute bike ride, if I go out into the Ford Center, you have to use a bike. Utilize a helmet just for your safety. I mean, those are just worst case scenario items, but it's better to be safe than not sorry. Well, better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I think it's obviously super important to stay safe, and I think that's the most important thing for bikers. But my next question was, what's one thing that when you're carrying with your bike, or when you're riding on your bike, what's something you would always carry or bring with you?
Water bottles, honestly. Again, anything for safety, some type of lights, whether like it's some flashing light or anything that would get a driver's attention for sure. Always bring your helmet. Let's see. I always use a backpack so I can carry everything. So, having a backpack where you can carry all of your equipment is very nice.
Okay. Yeah. And when you're obviously graduating this year, do you see yourself continuing to ride a bike when you go back home maybe, or do you see yourself buying a car? Do you think it would be do you basically see yourself continuing the lifestyle of a biker rather than somebody even past college?
I would say I'd probably keep it keep my lifestyle the same. It obviously matters where I work, where I live. But Cincinnati, if I'm in downtown, I can use a bike whenever. So that's always something I've kind of thought about if I want to go back down to Cincinnati and, work down there. But if I'm, outskirts of Cincinnati, I'd probably have to, buckle up and buy a car. But if I get the opportunity to, I would love to still bike ride around and I guess save as much money as I possibly can.
Yeah. And I'll ask one more question before we head out here. If there was anywhere you'd recommend or is like a must-have experience for biking in Evansville, where would you say the best places are to bike Evansville?
I love downtown. I'm a big downtown biker. Like, I love going around seeing, these massive buildings. I like doing that when I go to other cities as well. Just, seeing what's around the city. You get to meet a lot of great people while biking as well. So that's always been a very fun and interesting part of biking for me. And then I guess any bike lane that you can find. I know down in Newburgh they have a little bike track, so it's been very fun going around and riding on that as well. So yeah, those would be my two options.
Absolutely. All right, thank you so much. This was Connor Turnbull and Trent Hundley with The Highway.